Welcome to the Lisa Coors Show. I'm Lisa Coors, and this is Best of the Best in Fitness 2014. Really excited to have you today. We have two fabulous people to interview. We have Christine McGilvray and Irina Miller, and you get to hear their stories about how they got into the fitness industry. I hope you're inspired enough to get off the couch and start doing some more workouts. So I'd like to introduce my first person to interview, my interviewee, Christine McGilvray. Welcome to my show.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Well, Christine, I've known you maybe almost 6 months to a year. Tell everybody about what you do and what is your job every day? What do you do?
So I do a couple different things, but my primary job is I'm a Pilates instructor. I own Pilates for Runners in Oakley, and at my studio I also talk with my runners and my athletes and my clients about their overall health and wellness. So I kind of wear two hats, as instructor and as a wellness coach.
Awesome. You know, I hear so much about Pilates, and what I really like about what you do is it's Pilates for runners. And being a runner, like sometimes we're intimidated about stretching and doing something other than running. Is this what inspired you to get these people in your door?
Well, partly it was my own experience.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a runner, and as I was running, I was training to become a Pilates instructor, and I found that the more Pilates I did, the better my running got. And so I thought, you know, maybe these two things are a good fit for each other. So I came up with a curriculum that was based on my Pilates knowledge, but that's specifically tailored for runners, because runners generally have the same issues, whether it's their hips, their back. They tend to have the same problems. And a lot of runners don't do enough cross-training that's low to no impact.
Exactly.
So I came up with a system that I use at my studio to help runners become better runners, become more efficient, relieve their back pain, help eliminate injuries or overcome injuries more quickly. And so it was really my personal experience that inspired me to create a program to help all my runner friends.
Now, were you training for a half marathon, marathon? What were you training for?
I was running marathons at the time.
You were running marathons.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you were like, oh gosh, I'm going to study Pilates, and it really helped you.
Yes, hugely.
Because, you know, being a marathoner, I just know you get up to those 20-mile runs and things just break down.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that go to your studio and they love it because they're still running those marathons pain-free.
Yes.
What's the most common injury or complaint you get from your runners?
Generally, I think the most common complaint is low back pain.
Yeah.
Low back pain.
I see that a lot too.
Sort of, it can be very specific, but it can also be very general.
Sure.
We often don't think about the back as an important group of muscles to work. So one of the focuses for my Pilates for Runners classes is not just on the abs, which we always think of as the core, because that's what I'm looking at in the mirror.
Sure.
But the back is just as important, if not more important, for helping to stabilize the hips, to help with posture. So I really focus a lot on loosening up the joints in the back and then strengthening the muscles of the back.
Absolutely. No, that's wonderful. Tell me about your other business. You do some other things beside Pilates. Talk to me about that.
So another thing that that I see with my clients too is the nutrition aspect of their athleticism. And a lot of times people ask me when we're working out together, when I'm in class, you know, what should I be eating? What should I be doing? So I actually started coaching some clients, not just to help with weight loss, but to also help with getting more energy. And so that sort of informed my next business. I'm an Arbonne independent consultant and area manager. And through my Arbonne business, I'm able to use vegan, gluten-free products to help my clients detoxify and cleanse and get that energy back, lose those few extra pounds so that they're more efficient when they're running. It's easier on their knees and their hips and their ankles.
Wow.
Yeah. So one really fits into the other.
Excellent. Nicely. And I've seen in your studio, I've been in there, and there's all kinds of things that Arbonne, you sell for Arbonne. And you're seeing some results with your runners. I mean, that inflammation we get, and I would assume it decreases inflammation, a lot of the protein powders and the different drinks you have. So
yeah, inflammation's a huge concern for runners, and it's not something that we often think about coming from the foods we eat. But the two main inflammatory foods that people eat are dairy and gluten.
Wow.
And so eliminating gluten or really reducing gluten can go a long way to eliminating inflammation, not only in the digestive system, but also in your muscles. Wow. So I tell my runners to skip the spaghetti dinner the night before
too,
actually.
Yeah.
I tell them to get their carbs from vegetables,
right,
from whole grains like quinoa, and to skip the bread and pasta. Because actually, that's going to cause more inflammation in your body when you get up the next day to go running.
Can you explain to the viewer at home who's kind of new to this gluten thing, what happens when there's too much inflammation in the body?
That is a great question. And gluten is kind of it's a buzzword now. We're all wondering why we have to go gluten-free. Well, about 50 years ago, the U.S. wheat supply contained about 5% gluten, which is the protein of the wheat that allows the bread or the dough or whatever you're making to actually bind
together.
Over the last 50 years, our wheat supply has been hybridized and modified. It's now about 50% gluten. So the gluten that you had in 1940 in a loaf of bread is now the same equivalent to about 2 slices of bread.
Wow.
But our bodies didn't evolve that fast.
Exactly, yeah.
So the gluten that you're intaking, like I said before, it's inflammatory.
It is,
And so it inflames your intestinal tract, it inflames your digestive system, and then it inflames your muscles as well.
Right.
So one of the reasons that a lot of people are going gluten-free or reducing gluten is to reduce that inflammation in their system. Because when your intestines are inflamed or your digestive system isn't working properly, you're not able to absorb the nutrients from the foods that you're eating.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to get all the vitamins and minerals and amino acids out of the foods you're eating so that your body can build the muscles that it needs and have the energy
Unreal
it needs.
that what's in our food.
It's a whole different ballgame.
It's
different than it was 50 years ago.
Yeah, and we're eating so much bread. Everything is a sandwich. Cincinnati, all we eat is a sandwich. Is there anything beside a sandwich? I think it's a German thing. Pizza, that's right. Thank you for educating us on that, because I think a lot of the viewers out there are sitting there going, okay, help me with this inflammation. And when we see inflammation, we see disease, we see pain, we see everything that comes with that. So, no, thanks for explaining that. Tell me a little bit about where you're from and how you got into, I get the Pilates thing, but how did you, where are you from? How'd you get here?
How did I get here? Well, when I moved to Cincinnati 6 years ago, my twin sister told me when people ask you where you're from, what they mean is which high school did you attend?
I love it.
So I had to learn quickly to tell people I'm not from Cincinnati. But I have been here for 6 years. I moved here from Florida. I lived there for 9 years, and previous to that in Colorado. But I actually grew up in Northeast Ohio, so I'm an Ohio girl.
Yeah.
My sister came to Cincinnati when we graduated high school. She's a UC grad. And has lived here ever since. So I kind of took a circuitous route and came here to be closer to her.
Excellent.
So when I moved here, she introduced me to Stacy Sims, who is the owner and founder of Pendleton Pilates.
Yes.
And she said, well, why don't you do teacher training? Learn how to teach Pilates. And I'd been doing Pilates in Florida and really enjoyed it. And so jumped right in, started the teacher training program about a month after I moved here.
That's really neat. That's really neat. No, we're glad to have you. And you're correct. They do ask you, where'd you go to high school? We East Side, West Side, that type of thing.
Yeah, I had to learn all that too.
You had to learn. It's that education when you move to Cincinnati. So have you had any mentors? You talk about Stacy, but have you had some mentors along the way that have helped you and guided you?
I have. Stacy was a huge part of my transition into Cincinnati and into the Pilates world, and I still call her for advice, and she helps me along the way. I do have other mentors in my life, both personally and spiritually and professionally.
That's important,
because I feel like I can't know everything, and there are women out there who have had more experience than me, and I go to them and I ask questions. So
it's a wonderful thing about women, isn't it? We ask for help, and I find that too. Like sometimes you just don't know, and you go, help me. Who's been there along the way that can guide me and help me? Do you mentor anyone? Like any your new students? Do you find yourself being a mentor?
I do in my Arbonne business.
Sure.
I do mentor quite a lot, and I love that aspect of it. And I do mentor some other women personally. So I feel like, you know, the best way to give back is to pass it forward.
Absolutely.
Pass it along, pay it
Pass
forward.
It along,
you
pay
know,
it forward.
all that. So for all the help that women have given to me, I feel like the best way to thank them is to give to others.
Absolutely. I can tell you're very passionate about what you do between the Pilates and the Arbonne. And I think if you're at home and you're listening to us today, look at the passion she has. It's just like we really love what we do because we inspire lives. We change lives for the better. Last thing I want to ask you is what has been some of your biggest challenges in your life? Because so many people deal with so many struggles. And I'd like to know what is your struggle and how'd you overcome it?
So my biggest struggle, and I'm going to be completely honest here because I'm sure there might be someone at home who can relate to this. About 9 years ago, I got sober. So my biggest struggle in life was an addiction to alcohol. And that is also what led me into the fitness world. I joined a 12-step program and
for you.
Started to change my life and found I had a lot of time on my hands. So I joined a gym and I started working out, and I found that the people there were so supportive. My trainers were very encouraging. They were very, they just were a wonderful blessing in my life. And so I had other jobs before I became a Pilates instructor, but I do really see the value in being there for others. Oftentimes when I'm instructing someone, it goes way beyond Pilates.
It does.
And there's a lot of, you know, personal interaction and growth that happens with my clients. So exercise was a huge part of my recovery and has continued to be a huge part of my life.
I appreciate you sharing that because I just find that there are people that are going to watch this show that are sitting there and saying, oh my gosh, I've got to change. And it can be an addiction to alcohol, drugs, sex, you name it. I mean, people have addiction. And I look at you and I would never know that.
Right.
I would never know that because you can change your life around. And thank you again for sharing that with us because this woman is proof positive that you can do it. She is amazing, amazing.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's definitely a big thing for me to share, but I feel like sharing my experience might help somebody else. So
it is. It's going to. And I guarantee there's going to be at least one person, if not more, that see and hear you today and say, I'm going to join that 12-step program. I've got to do it. Christine did that. So thank you for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
I so appreciate
Thank you so much.
everything you've taught us today about inflammation and eating right, your Arbonne business, your Pilates for runners in Oakley. And again, thanks for being here. It's always a learning experience for me as your host and for the audience. We'll be right back with Irina Miller. Thank you. Welcome back to the Lisa Coors Show. This is Best of the Best in Fitness 2014. We just interviewed and was interviewing Christine McGilvray. And right now, I'm going to introduce you to Irina Miller, my second guest today. Very excited to have you. And we met last year at the Throwdown.
Yes.
So welcome, Irina.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and get a chance to talk with you. You've been a wonderful inspiration to me.
Oh, thank
and it's an honor to be here
you.
with you. It
Thank
really is.
you. Irina, tell us a little bit about what you do for a living and your passion. I know you have some passions here.
I do. Well, I'm very, very blessed that I've been able to devote my energy and my work full time to yoga. And so I share yoga. I run and own Grace Yoga Center. And right now I'm operating out of a wonderful karate space here in Anderson, Yosekan karate.
Awesome.
And wonderful student of mine was so sweet to open up her space and let me come in right now because I was currently in transition. And it's wonderful to be part of this community, wonderful group of people. And I love being able to connect with more and more people.
Now, do you do group? Do you do one-on-one yoga, or what is more your preference? Or
yeah, well, I do a little bit of everything. Sometimes one-on-one yoga and often group yoga. And the group yoga has been a lot of fun for me because it's so interesting. They say the students are a reflection of the teacher. And the people that come to me, not only do I have the wonderful opportunity to share with them what I know, but they teach me so much.
Isn't that the truth?
And it's exciting because my approach to teaching yoga, I always joke with my students. I come in with my plan, my lesson plans all set up, and I think, okay, today we're going to work on opening up the shoulders and releasing the tension around the neck and the jaw. And I'll come in the group of people who come, I'll look at their bodies and I'll think, oh goodness, you guys don't. Your shoulders look great, but the hips, and the lower back. So it's kind of funny because what I've discovered over the years is that the lesson plans, they don't go to waste. But not to be afraid to say, okay, you know what, this isn't the path we need today.
Scrap that.
And to follow really what the student needs. So that's led me to a very intuitive style of teaching. It's a lot of alignment-based yoga because I like to share. Ultimately, for the yoga, for me, has become a way to find balance and to teach others how to find balance in life so they can enjoy all the things they normally do, whether it's running or it's aerobics or it's just, finding comfortable positions to sit at an office desk. How to find happiness and relief in their body, freedom, and what yoga poses you can do to release lower back pain or shoulder pain. Or if the stresses just build up, the exercises you can do through breath, through meditation.
Oh my,
so
lots of different options when you're teaching yoga. That's really good. Because, a lot of people have done yoga, and I really encourage people to do yoga with Irina because I saw when you taught at the Throwdown, you're so intuitive and to people's bodies. Some, I've seen instructors really push and everything on people. You're so understanding that everyone comes from a different place. And I think that's the maturity that you have when you teach.
Thank you.
Yeah, gosh. That's
it's a joy. I've got to say there's nothing more thrilling than to see a wonderful group of people and they come in and their body or their stress levels are at one spot and to watch the transformation throughout the class as the stress melts away, as their bodies open, as they move into the rhythm of their breath. There's, you really talk about the path of joy, and really the happiness is seeing the effect that you can have on other people by making a change or helping them to make a change in their life. It's nothing more rewarding.
It is. Our industry, being in fitness, no matter what the discipline, Christine was talking about her Pilates, you talk about yoga, and I keep hearing everyone saying, wow, I get to pass on what I know. And make a difference. And where else do you really get to do that?
It's a wonderful chance because you get feedback instantaneously. You don't have to wait for years. You don't have to, it gets hidden kind of somewhere in the shuffle of paperwork, but you get to have that impact immediately. And it just makes your heart open and soar.
Oh, gosh,
And every person has their own story. And that is a nice thing to find out because it enhances your life.
You never know what you're going to hear from your clients, I was going to ask, so tell me where you're from and how you got to where you are.
Wonderful. Well, I'm very similar to Christine in the sense that I'm a transplant to Cincinnati and absolutely fell in love with this town. I moved here about 16 years ago from the DC area, which is where I started to really get involved with yoga. I was in college and the stress level was unbelievable. Everything, you have all these things that you need to get done and you think, I've only have 24 hours in a day. How will this happen? And a girlfriend said to me, come on, let's go take a yoga class at the Student
Yes.
Union building.
Fun.
And I thought, are you crazy? I don't have time
I don't have
for
time
that.
to take yoga.
She's like, come on, it's a half an hour. It'll be
Sure.
a good laugh.
Okay.
And I thought, all right, okay, I'll go, just if you stop bugging me.
Right.
So I went, and I've got to tell you, I went in there wound so tight, stressed to such a level, and I walked out of that class thinking, I can handle anything. I could solve world peace. This is wonderful. I feel fantastic.
That's awesome.
So
That is
I was
awesome.
hooked, and it was something I knew that I had to share with others, because some of the most common everyday things that we go through, you know, achy shoulders or the pain in the
posture
lower
and just-
back,
yeah.
can be shifted through simple yoga poses. It doesn't have to be Cirque du Soleil.
Right,
And
right.
I find that it's the most basic poses that make the biggest difference.
Wow, that's very, very cool. Now, I have an understanding that you do some work with Reiki.
Yes.
Can you tell the audience what Reiki is?
Yes.
And am I saying it correctly?
You are.
Okay,
yes,
okay, yeah.
It's wonderful. Reiki is a way to work with people in an energetic sense. So it can be a laying on of hands. Maybe
Okay.
many people know it as a laying on of hands in various churches, or healing hands that's done in hospitals.
Yeah.
But it's a way to really help a person relax. It's to help check in and find balance, because what tends to happen is throughout the day we pick up on other people's emotions and their energy. So you think about, you know, if you're in a position of rush hour traffic and people are running around cutting you off, you can get agitated, or even if you're around an angry coworker. And what
The
can
shoulders
happen,
go up.
yes, and you get home and you're ready for a fight. So one of the most wonderful things that you can learn through energy work, like Reiki or some of the other forms of energy, is that you start to pay attention to what's yours and what's not yours.
Right.
In the sense that you say, okay, is this anger and frustration really mine, or is this, you know, from work, the bosses that I've picked up, or the rush hour traffic?
Right.
And then what you start to do is you start to learn to be very grounded and very centered, and to be in a place where you can be present during those stressful times without picking up on the stress, so that ultimately you have more peacefulness and more happiness.
If anybody meets Irina, the first thing I always do, I know my experience meeting you is, you just want to relax when I'm around you. Like, there's no stress. And I think that's your passions in your life of stress-free and helping others with your gift. But you have like this ability to just de-stress people just being in your presence. That's a
thank
very
you.
cool skill to have. So,
Thank you.
yeah, so tell me about any mentors you've had, because you know several disciplines. And have you had any mentors along the way that have helped you?
I have. I've been very, very blessed. My mother is the biggest mentor. She laid a foundation for me, a strong foundation in health, in fitness, in exercise, and then also the energy work too, really. And she was a wonderful person to kind of open the door for me and support me in my path of yoga, in my path of energy work. And along the way, I've been blessed in town to have wonderful yoga teachers who've since moved on to other places.
Sure,
Happens
that
when
happens.
they grow. Sienna Sherman was my biggest influence here in town, and was such an amazing helper to me in my pathway along the way. And as far as mentors with the energy work, Ann Steffen, who's in Hyde Park, is an amazing energy worker who mentored me, and a wonderful friend, Kathy Thomas, who lives in the area.
Yes,
is
I've met
so
Kathy, yes.
supportive and has been opening wonderful doors to me to meet beautiful teachers, because there's a wealth of opportunity out there. So
There is.
as you were saying before, you know, as women, you know, being able to ask for help, or even, you know, the men as well who are around and who support and they see what's happening. All we have to do is ask, and it's amazing how it'll
It
show
comes up.
up. Yeah, and that trust and faith that is a part of it it's a wonderful thing, just knowing that when you have a heart's desire and you put it out there, whether it's to get healthy or to find peace with, you know, within any situation, you put that request out there, you keep your eyes open, the answer's going to come.
I like that statement, because, you know, people that are at home right now listening to this, You know, sometimes we need to verbalize, I need help. I need to get started. And you're correct. It's amazing the people that all of a sudden hear you and say, hey, I've been in that situation. Let me help you.
Yeah.
And it's there.
Yeah.
We just have to ask sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and validating too. You know,
Right,
validate.
right.
It's amazing. I had a gal in class yesterday. She's trying to do her tree pose, and she kept wobbling.
Yeah.
And she said, "I just can't balance today. I don't know what's happening."
Yeah.
And next thing you know, she was balanced. And sometimes it's
Throw it
just
out.
validating it, saying,
It
"You know
is.
what? I can't find balance to save my life today. Everything's
Sure.
going out the window."
Yeah.
And just by saying hello to some of these energies or some of these frustrations that come up, what seems like a huge snowball of overwhelming anxiety all of a sudden can be reduced. Saying, you know
Yeah,
what,
yes.
I missed my workout today. You know, I
Sure.
didn't get to my yoga mat. Okay,
Okay,
that's all
yeah,
right. You know, I'll get there. You know, I'm going to set up a time, an appointment to practice with myself later. But if I didn't get there today, that's okay.
It's okay.
It's going to come.
Yeah. Have you had any big challenges in your life, struggles that you've had to overcome? And if so, how did you do it?
Yeah, well, my mom was diagnosed with skin cancer 2.5 years ago, and that came as quite a shock. And
Yeah.
she did pass 2 years ago on Memorial
sorry.
Day
I'm
weekend.
sorry.
Thank you. And she was the most amazingly graceful person through the whole experience.
Wow.
She was so grounded and so peaceful through all the different steps of the way, and she was more concerned and focused on her doctors and her caregivers than she was herself. I mean, the smiles, and she would ask how they were doing, and she really taught me how to go through such an intense period with grace and with transition. Because I was beautifully blessed to be there during her transition as she passed. And I have to tell you, there was such peacefulness and such grace that I was truly moved that I could be there during that moment. But moving forward, because she was one of my biggest mentors,
That's
it's been
a tough
interesting.
one. You and I both understand that one. That's a tough one.
Yeah. So for me, coming back to a meditation practice and coming back to just moving the feelings through my body so that I don't stay stuck and I don't let the big loss emotionalize or paralyze me in the emotion, but learning how to move the emotion through my body to let go of it, because we can store emotion in our body and it can manifest as, you know, just tight shoulders when we're angry or other things along the way.
Yeah, but thank you so much for sharing that. I learned so much from the people I interview on the show, yourself and Christina, and thank you again for being here today.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you for joining us, and this is the Lisa Coors Show. I'm Lisa Coors, Best of the Best in Fitness 2014.